The dominant narrative in America is that Black people's relation to agriculture began with enslavement. While that is a piece of our story, Black people have held strong connections with the land and food well before colonialism, starting with their rich communities in Africa.
You see, the seed and all that it stood for was so precious to our ancestral grandmothers in West Africa that they braided seeds of black rice into their hair while trapped in the bowels of transatlantic slave ships. They braided the wisdom of caring for the sacred earth, such as the carbon-capturing dark earth compost of Ghana, the no-till raised beds of the Ovambo people, the soil-stabilizing polycultures of Nigeria, the rotational grazing and swidden agriculture of Guinea, and the Zai and Tassa pits that turn the Sahel desert green.
While Black people have a rich history of growing their own food, today agriculture is one of the whitest professions in America.
97% of the acres owned on a national level are owned by white folks.
Black farmers currently operate just 1.5% of the nation's farms, down from 14% in 1910, having lost over 12 million acres to USDA discrimination, racist violence, and legal trickery.
Additionally, food insecurity and diet-related illnesses disproportionately impact Black communities. According to the USDA, nearly 20% of Black Americans experienced food insecurity in 2021, which is 3 times the rate of white Americans. That same year, it was found that 1 in every 5 Black households are located in areas with little access to healthy, affordable food. These issues are far from a coincidence. Karen Washington, a food justice activist and urban grower from New York, coined the term food apartheid to acknowledge the systemic racism and intentionality of the inequities in our food system. Food apartheid describes how systemic racism is the reason why food access looks the way it does today, and sheds light on the fact that our food system is broken. In order to address food insecurity in Black communities, it is time to shift away from the white-controlled food system and determine what we want our food systems to look like for ourselves.
Food sovereignty is a very complex, multifaceted definition that boils down to community self-determination. Yeah, so food sovereignty varies tremendously across different communities because so many communities, there's so much diversity across goals and experiences and histories and so on, right? And so Detroit's Black community defines food sovereignty as the right of people of African descent to access healthy and culturally appropriate food through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agricultural systems. And so it's a really broad framework that directly addresses people's human right to not only consume healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate, high quality foods, but also meaningfully contribute to how their food is produced, distributed, consumed, and even recycled after the consumption process. And so what this means for us is having a communal farm space, right? So D-Town Farm is a 7-acre farm in River Rouge Park on the city's west side, where we grow over 30 different varieties of fruits and vegetables. And we focus a lot on Afro-Indigenous crops that's in high demand from our community. Of course, it's strategic that agriculture and farming has been whitewashed because agriculture is the center of all industry. It's basically the foundation of everything. And then we say that who controls the land and the food has the most power within the system. And so, of course, within the system of white supremacy, or the myth of white supremacy, white folks have been very strategic in subsuming all the power via land ownership, via exploiting people's labor, via just taking over or privatizing these public goods so that they are in majority control of the agricultural industry. If we're going to facilitate any kind of equity, justice, or sustainability for the future of this planet, for the future of humanity, there must be a massive transference of wealth and power. And so supporting BIPOC food and land initiatives does that. I mean, in actuality, this entire agricultural system has been built on BIPOC brilliance and ingenuity and labor, right? Like stolen land and stolen labor is the core of the US empire. And so returning indigenous people's land and paying reparations to Black folks in all the forms possible, and repairing the harm generally across all people of color is extremely important if farmers of color and our communities are to survive generally.